So this is me decluttering and purging my somewhat out of control closet situation. If you know me, you know that I love the thrift and that I'm a little bit of like a textile addict. Like I love the feeling of cottons and wools and linens and silks and cashmere. I just love natural fibers and I love textures and I love color. Like I'm slightly obsessed with certain colors or like a palette of certain colors, as you can probably tell. But this is all a little bit excessive. Like I don't need this much stuff, especially knowing that I'm moving abroad for a year in January. And honestly, I just feel like having this much stuff is kind of weighing me down a little bit because a lot of it is stuff that I've just kind of mindlessly consumed throughout the year. And yeah, I just feel a little bit overwhelmed. And I don't think I'm the only one who can say that decluttering and purging stuff can be overwhelming and bring up a lot of feelings, whether it be memories or attachments or other weird things. I feel like our clothing and stuff hold a lot of energy. That being said, this most recent purging and declutter, although it brought up a lot of stuff and little realizations, felt pretty good. So here's the process and the steps that I took. Okay, so the first phase of this whole decluttering / creating a mindful closet for myself, we're gonna call the setting up phase. Basically everything that I ended up doing physically and mentally to set myself up for this purging and cleansing of my clothes. The physical part of this phase is everything that you might imagine. It basically consisted of me clearing out everything from my closet and making that massive pile on my bed that you saw at the beginning of the video, and just created a fresh, clean space, an empty space that was ready with new potential. And the mental part of this phase was cultivating an abundance mindset over a scarcity mindset. If you're unfamiliar with the terms abundance and scarcity mindsets, an abundant mindset is basically the idea that there is more than enough to go around, there are plenty of opportunities, resources, time, material things in the world, and that your needs will always be taken care of. In other words, you will never be lacking. Whereas a scarcity mindset is the belief that resources and things are limited and there's not enough to go around, there's not enough to meet your needs, which can lead to anxiety around losing what you have or hoarding possessions, a resistance to letting things go, even if they're no longer serving you. And the way that I went about using this abundance mindset to set up for decluttering was that I got myself to a place where I fully believed that it's okay to let things go that are no longer serving me, because if I ever need them in the future, I can go out and replace them, or they will find me, or I'll find a way to make it happen. Whether it be at a thrift store or Facebook Marketplace, or honestly even just borrowing things from friends. I was not joking when I said it's too much stuff. Okay, now let's move on to the next phase that I did, which I'm gonna call creating the core. Basically, it's where I built a core closet that would later help me kind of filter through all the rest of my random clothes. It'll make sense in a second. Basically, the first step in this phase was asking myself the question, if someone stole all of my clothes and burned them today, what would I go out and replace and buy? What are the essentials that I need to live? Not worrying about creative expression, not worrying about cool clothes, literally just worrying about the basics. What are my essentials to clothe myself? And then I threw those in my closet. And I feel like this phase was good because it was kind of nice seeing how little I truly needed to be able to like exist and survive. Doing this step just really made me feel that the basics were taken care of, and anything beyond these items of clothing were just kind of extra or a privilege. Now, I am personally someone who likes to express myself creatively with my clothing, so I would get pretty bored if I only kept the essentials for a long time. So the next step in this phase of creating the core was jazzing it up and bringing in the things that I love, the fancier pieces, the more creative pieces, the less practical pieces, and yeah, just my favorites and the things and the clothing that made me happy. That although there weren't the essentials, if someone did take all of my clothes and burn them, I probably would eventually like to regain these items again. Now, once I created the core, I moved on to the next phase, which I'm going to call filling out my closet. And this phase is basically when I go through and decide what items from the massive pile am I going to keep that aren't essentials and they weren't necessarily the things that I thought right away, oh my gosh, I love this and I need to rebuy it. So in this step, basically what I did is I started going through this big pile, and for each item that I picked up, I went and compared it to the most similar thing in my core closet. and I asked myself, if I had to choose between wearing these two things, which one would I pick? And if the decision was really hard and I felt like I would pick between the two items equally, then I would just keep both of them, because I'm not trying to be a minimalist, you know? I'm just trying to be intentional. However, if when I asked myself this question there was a very clear winner, then I would move the loser to the side to deal with in the next phase. And once I did that for my entire pile of things, I moved on to phase 4, which was basically sorting out all of the losers. That sounds really mean, actually. I should just say sorting out the rest. And I ended up having a couple of categories. So the first category of things that I had was my project category, things that I actually did quite like, or that have a lot of potential if I were to upcycle, or that could just be a cool project, and things that were just a nice material that, although I might not like the color or the shape of the clothing or the form that it's in now, I do quite like the material, and it is material that I would like to use maybe in the future for another project. Lately, I've been trying to be more responsible with my clothing and the things that I'm no longer using, instead of putting the responsibility onto someone else, like a consignment store or a thrift store, where I don't really even know if it's going to end up in someone's hands or if it's just going to end up in the landfill of a third world country. I've been trying to take what I already have and repurpose it into something that I know I will use, and just trying to be very responsible and very conscious that way. Okay, anyways, the next pile was my pile for my friends, because I honestly did have a lot of clothing that I still liked and I still thought was really cool, so I didn't necessarily want to sell it, although I probably could have made some decent money. But honestly, I think I would rather just see my friends reap the benefits of my addiction. Plus, it gave us a good excuse to hang out. And honestly, I find it's a little bit easier sometimes letting things go to people that you know and people that you love, and just passing on the clothing love. And all of my friends and I have this agreement that if we get clothes from one another, we don't go and donate or sell the clothes that we got from that person. We basically give it back to them and let them decide what they want to do with it, if they want to sell it or if they want us to sell it, or whatever it is. And honestly, most of the time you don't even remember what you gave to your friends, but it just helps you get over that initial feeling of wanting to keep things that you're literally not using. Anyways, once my friends came over and picked through my stuff, I then divided everything that was left over into 3 separate piles. The first one being to donate to the thrift store, the second one being things to bring to Plato's Closet, and the third one being a pile of the things my friends didn't take, but the material was nice, so I'm going to try and upcycle or repurpose somehow, either before I move abroad or when I come back. And if you've decluttered before, you know how long this process takes. So I still have like some random things kind of floating around my house waiting to be taken care of. But in the grand scheme of things are looking good, things are feeling good, and I now have a much more curated, intentional closet. So if you would like a closet tour and you'd like to see what I kept, leave me a little note down in the comments. And if there's enough interest, I will give you all a little show and tell of my new, improved, downsized, intentional, not minimal by any means, but intentional closet. As always, if you have any other video ideas you'd like for me to make, leave me a note down below. Here are a couple videos the YouTube algorithm thinks that you might enjoy. As always, thank you for spending this little chunk of your day with me here in our little corner of the internet. I hope this video finds you well. I hope you're taking care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one.